Hello, welcome to the NGHWA chapter meeting. We're so glad you're with us today. We love being a part of NGHWA. This is our chapter meeting that's on the second Saturday of every month, or most every month at 10 a.m. And what we love about NGHWA is the hypnosis community, learning from one another. And all these presentations are uploaded to our YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. We also, not are most of us are part of the local chapter, but the NGHWA national organization is also an agency that is adhered to an insurance company. So I love having hypnosis insurance. That's really important to me. So we are really happy to have monthly presentations.
Hello, I'm James Calvin. I'm going to be the presenter today on our topic. Today we're going to be discussing Enneagrams, face reading, and the purpose of life. A little bit about myself, because I normally include it in introductions. I've been practicing hypnosis for 3 or 4 years now. I've been studying Enneagrams, which I'm going to be discussing for 3 or 4 years now. I use it in practical application in the security industry. Own and operate a security company and use all of the lessons learned in hypnosis to train officers in real world application. Okay, getting into it. So there's a lot to talk about today, and ultimately, it is all going to be kind of adaptive and malleable to what we experience in this class. There's an immense amount of subject material that we're going to begin to delve into, and I'll just be honest, everybody that I discuss this with, it goes in so many different directions. It's a lot of excitement that happens, and truthfully, I have no idea where this is going to go. I just don't know. I never know. It's not based on me. It's based on this class. It's based on how you guys perceive the information, what's going to be useful to you guys, and that is how I'd like to run it. Rather than me sit here and just talk, I'd rather it be more interactive, figure out what you guys think and what kind of questions you guys have, and make sure that's a lot more interactive. Get you guys excited for the information so that you guys can go out and be warriors of this stuff and figure out how to use it for yourself and also how to get it out in the world as well. So starting off, I'm going to talk about Enneagrams. For those who have never, has anybody ever heard of Enneagram personality types from anybody besides me? Okay, well, perfect. Nice. Okay. All right. Well, perfect. So there's a lot of different personality types out there, tests out there. There's a few that I've done. There's Myers-Briggs, and there's so many different ones. I am not familiar with really any of them besides Enneagrams. All right. There's a lot of different ways to personality type people. Um, and they are all different. They're all based on observations over long periods of time. And they are all a little bit different from each other. It doesn't mean that any one is right or another is wrong. All right, they all kind of blend together. As I've studied Enneagrams, I've found an immense amount of overlap of what I've come to understand through Enneagrams. I see similar sets of understanding of the world. Illustrated in different personality tests. Okay, so there's a lot of overlap. That could be with numerology. I could look up zodiacs or the Chinese calendar or anything, and you can end up seeing this attempt of humans to understand how society works. How do we get everybody to come together to work together as a society? So you end up seeing a lot of overlap and similarities across all the tests. So I want to start with that. Is Enneagrams correct or right? I have no idea. All right, I have no idea. It's different. It might be if you have an intimate knowledge of another personality test, it doesn't mean that what you know is wrong by any means. It should just be all supplementary. So if you have any other pre-existing information, this shouldn't replace it. It should just kind of add to it, right? And that's really most things in the world, not just personality tests. But okay, so Enneagrams, where do they come from? Nobody knows. That's another interesting thing about it. Where to come from? It's seemingly nobody knows. How long has it been around for? Hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And it's seemingly what it is a human's attempt to understand how do we all get along? How does all this come to make sense? So It's been around for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. How did I discover it? It was through a random book. Stacy's father found a book on Enneagrams at a used bookstore or something like a Salvation Army or something and gave it to Stacy, and then Stacy found it and was glancing at it and figured out who she was in it. Then I started looking at it, and the rest is history. Okay, so getting into Enneagrams, I'm going to start talking about that. As we look at Enneagrams, they classify people into nine types of people. Within the nine types of people, there's all kinds of variants, but it's a general classification of nine. Um, with that, going back to is it right or wrong? I don't know. But I so heavily believe in this stuff as I've come to understand Enneagrams. There is my life before Enneagrams and my life after for understanding of who I am and understanding of others. Is my understanding of others correct? I don't know, but it gives me a massive amount of courage to go and try to make an attempt, to go to try to make contact with people. It gives me that confidence. If I didn't have an understanding of other people, if I didn't know where they needed to go, then I wouldn't have the confidence, the courage to get them there. And the truth of it is, Enneagrams gives you the competence to get them there. All right. So we all want to go out and help other people. Every person on this planet is different. So how do we help each individual is going to be different to that individual. If we go out and say broadly, I am a helper, let me go out and help the world. You need help. Let me come over and help you. Here's the help. Is it going to be well received? That's all based on an individual, right? So we have to learn how to be extremely adaptive to who we're coming across to be able to realize who are we dealing with so that our positive intentions actually go somewhere. Otherwise, if we have a positive intent and we have this expectation to help other people, and then we get met with resistance, what is that going to do for us as the helper? It's going to discourage us. We're not going to get the results we want. We're not going to be determined, see it through because we're not getting the results, right? Because we have unrealistic expectation as the healer. So having a better understanding of Enneagrams, it doesn't just give you the confidence to be able to go and help other people, which it will. It'll make you feel confident because you feel like you're going to know somebody, right? And that's a powerful thing. But it also gives you the competence to actually make the real difference. So we're not just giving broad advice to the individual and hoping that it sticks to that individual because it's broad advice, right? We get to learn how to give honed advice. All right. So a lot of what we study through Enneagrams, it starts looking at the health levels of individuals. It says where are they at today? What kind of a trauma and abuse have they experienced? Where are they within this personality type? Are they extremely healthy, making good decisions? Are they wise? Are they been faced with a lot of challenges and adversity, and they're still utilizing these experiences to make good decisions? Or are they not? Are they disassociating and doing all these bad behaviors? Are they more narcissistic and self-focused and less team-focused? All these unhealthy behaviors. So you have your health level within the personality type. But okay, lots to cover here. You can already tell. I've got a lot of direction to go with this. Let's start talking about some of the personality types. I'm gonna maybe just kind of briefly talk about some of the personality types, and as I talk about them, you guys will be able to form it all within your own. What I would recommend is as I start talking about some of these personality types, is maybe make the guess the assumption who in my life would fit that image. And that's what'll help you start understanding some of these personalities is that once you figure out who you are, what you test as, and those that you understand the best in your life and what kind of personality type they are, then that's how you start putting all of the nine together. Is an understanding of one or two or three that allows you to get the understanding of the nine. So for myself, I tested as the type 8, which is the challenger. It's towards the bottom of the list. It's going to be one of the last ones that I talk about. So I started learning about the type 8, and then I learned about Stacy, who's the type 4. And of course, why wouldn't I want to learn about her more than anybody else? And so I started learning about the individualist or the type 4. So those are the ones that I started learning about. Then I started looking out in my close world and said, well, what type of people are these? So the first one I'm going to talk about is my sister-in-law is Kenda. It's Stacy's sister. Her name's Kenda. She is very principalistic. She's smiling. She wears a lot of makeup. She cares about her image. She dresses well. She takes care of her physical body. She doesn't swear. She's deterministic, principled, hardworking, trustworthy, tells the truth. All of these things. If you were to talk to Kenda, she will tell you about how her whole next year is all backed up, that she doesn't have a minute to herself in the next year. And then she's going to tell you about how she's going to stack more onto that plate, right? Because she's so hardworking. And we're going to get into how we classify people. We have a lot of different ways to kind of classify people. But So it's very socially image based. She cares about her image more than anything. How am I being seen by everybody? Am I hardworking? Am I being seen as hardworking? Am I doing the right thing right now? And it's from a very judgy place because Kenda is what I would call the perfectionist. All right. It's the type one, the perfectionist. So they're driven, hardworking, principalistic. But they're very image based. When they determine what am I going to be doing right now, they look around and say, well, this is what I think everybody should be doing. They're very principalistic. They say, if I'm a human being in this civilization, I need to be working hard, and not just me, everybody should be working hard. So they look around, they're very judgy too. They'll sit there, look, why don't you take care of yourself? James, why is your hair all jacked up? Or, all these things. Like, that's the things that ones care about because they're going to look at social image and trying to determine what is the correct thing to do. So it is somewhat autonomous because they are judgy and pushing outward this expectation and this image, but it's created by society. They are adapted by society. They're controlled by whatever society they're in ultimately. All right. So just quick rundown. That's type one. They're good hosts, good peacekeepers generally. We're going to get in different ways to classify them. They're visual. All right. They're primarily in their heads. When we're talking about hypnosis, you can use words. So you can use guided visualizations with them, and that's going to be effective. I'll tell you the truth, I don't find a lot of ones in the hypnosis industry. It is relatively rare. As I go and look at across all the personality types that I end up seeing, ones are relatively rare. It's primarily because ones don't like being vulnerable. All right. They don't like their image being tampered with. If they're going to put themselves out there, their image needs to be protected. It needs to be in something that is tried and true, like math or science. If they want to protect their image, they don't want to look bad. But as soon as they don't know something, they're going to concede. I'm dumb. I didn't do well in high school, whatever. Like, so they're going to want to not stand out until they do. Then they're just going to say, I don't know this subject. I concede. It's okay. I don't know anything. Generally, you're not going to find ones getting into hypnosis in the first place. It takes vulnerability. It takes ability to be insecure or secure with yourself to be able to let go, to be seen in a certain type of way, to be sitting there doing stuff in front of other people. You have to be able to let go. You have to be able to be comfortable. Ones are naturally resistant to that. Why? Because they care about their social image more than anything. All right. Looking at ones. So they're visual. You can use guided visualizations with them. If you are going to do it, you can do kinesthetics. You can do a bunch of different stuff. They are generally going to be appeasing. We're looking at getting ahead of the material. We got 4F response. You got fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. All of the 9 personality types we're going to talk about, they have a disposition to doing a certain behavior first. All right. So ones, they are generally, I would say, appeasing. They're doing what they can to get along with other people. If appeasing doesn't work, they will fight. All right. So ones get angry. Ones are verbally the most aggressive of, I wouldn't say the most aggressive. They are the sharpest with their words. When they do choose to get sharp with their words, they are the sharpest. You see a lot of ones that are like lawyers. The ones are principalistic. They're going to be verbally aggressive. They're in their heads. They're always right, and they will argue with anybody because they're right in their head. Doesn't mean that they are physically aggressive and dominant. No. All right, but they are verbally dominant. You might come across somebody who thinks that they're cynical, smartass, or whatever that's better than you. It might be a one. So, all right. So, you got ones. social image, I see few of them in the hypnosis industry. If you're going to try to do hypnosis, do something visual, you could really kind of do anything. Because if they're going to be up there, they're already accepting. They're already putting their image aside and being vulnerable with you, and that's the toughest thing in the first place. Let me see what other kind of stuff I want to talk about with ones real quick. Um, Go state. They are doing work, 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 work. If you see somebody that doesn't give themselves the break and they are driving themselves to work, that they're probably a one or they're going to be a two. We're going to talk about them a little bit, or a four, like Stacy, but probably a one. If they are letting everybody know I work so hard and I'm doing even more work, that's probably a one if they're showcasing it, right? Their no state is they get verbally aggressive. They get very verbally combative. When they lose their cool, they become very sharp with their words. They are also, when they do that, they are going to stab your image. That's what they're going to go after. They're going to go after your social image to others. They're going to undermine your competency with other people. All right. Dominant equals subordinate. They see themselves as equals, but sort of on the dominant side. They're verbally aggressive. They're principalistic. They think that they know what's best for what they should be doing and others. That seems dominant, right? But not really. They don't actually think that they're better than other people. All right. They're still appeasing, fairly neutral people. All right. 4F response. Or fight. That's what they do. Or maybe a little bit of freeze, and they're probably not going to run away though. Guard. All right, so we got gut, heart, and head triad. Got three triads, different ways of looking at people. Enneagrams clumps the nine into three triads. So you've got um, the eight, the nine, and the one that are going to be of the gut instinct, which is just doing and looking back afterward and looking at the aftermath and measuring to see how effective you were. It's just doing rather than sitting around freezing and wondering what's the best way to do it. So they kind of are just operating from a gut instinct and looking behind them. All right, so they're of gut instinct. There's another way you could classify people: social, intimate, or self-preservation instinct. We all, um, no matter what our personality type is, will still have social, intimate, and self-preservation instinct. And it's just, where is the focus? When you're looking at the perfectionist, their focus is on their social image. Is their social instinct. They have a very strong social instinct. They're looking about how they are being perceived and how to influence others. How do we make this pristine environment, right? So it's a very strong social instinct. They do it from a place of self-preservation. That's why they're deterministic and hardworking. Is because that secures their place in society. It's the right thing to do. Why wouldn't they be that way, right? So, um, and then intimate instinct. Everybody is of all three, but I would say intimate instinct is going to be the weakest for the one. They are more concerned about having lots of friends and being popular than they are about having deep, intimate relationships, getting into being vulnerable and having true security and going very deep with people. So I would say not as much of intimate instinct, just from my perspective. All right. Self, team, and mission focus is another way of being able to look at people. Are you self-focused? Are you making sure that you are comfortable, your needs are getting met? Are you team focused, making sure that it's a sense of we, us, that we are all getting needs met? Are your needs being met? Are you okay? That's a sense of we. And then we have mission focus, which is I'm going to sacrifice myself and my body. I'm going to work hard to make sure that this is achieved, or I'm going to sacrifice you guys. Like, let's go, let's march, march, march. We're working for something bigger here, bigger than us. Let's work for it, right? So that's going to be mission focus. So you got self, team, and mission focus. One's is maybe somewhere between self and team. They are thinking about, what do I need to be doing to be effective in this society, but what does everybody else need to be doing? And so it's this kind of dichotomy of it's a lack of comfort. It's a constant drive to work. I would say that they're less than mission focused. I don't usually see ones in leadership positions, and it's because they don't have a mission. If to be a leader, either the leader is getting their own needs met, they're getting the team's needs met, or they have something bigger that they're trying to get the team to march toward, right? Ones generally I don't see in leadership positions because of that, because they're not mission focused. They just are here for today in principle. So that's how I see it. Um, just another quick thing about this. What as you guys get more enthralled with this material, um, my dictionary or thesaurus encyclopedia for this is the EnneagramInstitute.com. There's a lot of different sources for Enneagram material out there. I do the EnneagramInstitute.com. It has like 3 or 4 pages of information per personality type. It's very clean, extremely organized, and effective. It's not books and books and books and books and books and books of information. And there is that out there on that. I'll tell you though, if you guys go and pick a book up on Enneagrams and read their understanding of what a 1 through 9 is, it's going to be a little bit different than mine. It's because I'm the author, right? So what I'm teaching you guys is how I see the world. Doesn't mean that you guys are going to see the world. All these things, if we got the time, that you guys are going to go out and try to proof. You're going to try to proof of concept it out in the world, and you guys are going to experience different things. But as you guys go and start trying to understand people, you're going to have your own understandings, and your Kenda is going to be different. Once you come to find out who is that type 1 in your life that you can that you understand well, that you can think about, your Kenda is going to be different, right? They're different people. It doesn't mean that your perfectionist is right or wrong, or my perfectionist. They're just different, right? So I use Enneagram Institute. You could look at different authors. And honestly, when I read other authors, I disagree with them because it disagrees with my understanding of it, right? So, okay, I just want to talk about that. All right, so moving on, different ways of classifying. We're talking about self, team, and mission. Um, what kind of appeal is going to work well? Because this is what I do, because ultimately you're trying to get compliance, especially in the security industry. If I'm dealing with an irate type 1, how am I going to deal with that type of person, right? So you have to understand your appeals, and with the type 1, you're going to do appeal to logic. I'm going to want to talk about if you were to say, hey, you're not allowed to smoke within 25 feet of this doorway. You should already know that, though. Why were you smoking near the door? You're going to hurt other people. What is that going to do to the 1? They're going to lose their shit. They're going to be like, oh my God, there's rules and I was supposed to know them and I broke them. Well, the rules weren't correct. They weren't engineered correctly. How am I supposed to know them? That's nonsense. They're going to respond with anger, right? So if you were to say, hey, type 1 perfectionist, you're doing something less than perfect, they will respond with anger. Who would have thunk it? Okay. So what's your appeal got to be? It's got to be extremely logical. Got to talk about the rules, the context. You got to explain the environment. This is what I observed. This is what happened. If you put any guilt or shame or any expectation in there and make them feel a certain type of way, you are going to get an angry response. They're not going to deny your message. All right. So we accept what we deem to be true about ourselves. We accept if it's linear with what I'm projecting outward. So let me put it this way. I will reject what you tell me if it goes against how I see myself. I will go against what you tell me if it goes against how I want you to see me. If it goes against the image that I'm projecting out and you're not with that, I will reject your image. Or if you were to say something that I deem to be untrue, I will also reject your message. And that's pretty much anybody. So the type 1, it's all of those. All right. So it's going against, if you say that they're doing something wrong, it's going against how they see themselves. It's going against the image that they're projecting outward, which is being pristine and perfect. And then if they don't understand the rules and context, then they're just going to shut down and say, well, I didn't know that, right? So understanding of appeal to logic is going to work really well. Appeal to emotion, not so well. If you appeal to emotion and their emotional response is anger, and you appeal to emotion, then what emotion are they going to reflect back? Anger. You could say happiness, sadness, anger. They're going to reflect back anger. It doesn't matter. They're going to reflect back anger. So want to make sure you're appealing to logic. The different appeals you got: appeal to logic, you got to appeal to self, appeal to pragmatism, and appeal to fear in some different ways. The Greeks, they had ethos, pathos, and logos. Appeal to ethics, fear, and logic. That's another way that you can look at it. But then on top of that, okay, so field logic is setting rules context. Hey, well, these are the rules. Oh, we don't allow smoking within 25 feet of the doorway. If you were to simply say, we don't allow smoking within 25 feet of the doorway, they understand the context. Oh, well, I'm breaking the rules. I don't want to break the rules. And then they're going to walk out. But if you were to say, don't you know you're not allowed to smoke within 25 feet of the doorway? That is a much different statement, right? So we got to be really careful how you talk to people. Okay, so we got the different appeals. Appeal to fear would be like, well, you should move away from the door, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. It's appeal to fear works with some only type fours, but we're going to get into it. Let me keep moving. We have so little time. I'm talking about ones too much. Okay, appeal to logic, appeal to fear, appeal to self. This is going to make you feel better. You will feel a lot better if you don't have to deal with me talking to you. If you just want to have some peace by yourself over there, that's appeal to self. It's also appeal to emotion too. If I were to say, imagine how much happier you would feel if you just enjoyed your cigarette over there, where I'm not going to pester you. That's appeal to self and emotion, right? Because it's appeal to them and why it's going to be good for them. And it's a recall to their emotional state. How are you going to feel as you stop smoking? When you do conquer that, how are you going to feel? That's a recall state. Anyways, appeal to emotion. Don't want to do appeal to emotion on most people. Most people. We're going to talk about that because we can't control what emotion you're going to get back. If you feed somebody a emotion, you're not going to get that emotion back. Not guaranteed. You're going to get a emotion back, but it's going to be their natural response emotion is what you're going to get back from people. So control people's emotional response. Not well. Okay, so we're talking about the type one, orderly, always busy, ethical, meticulous. Go stay productive. Go, go, go. Work. No state angry. But are they physically angry? They're going to fight somebody over it? No, they're going to be verbally aggressive and they're going to attack social image. All right, going on to type two, you got the helper. As I call these guys, they are the angels on earth. Stacy's mom is my example of the type two. She doesn't ask you if you're hungry. She asks you if you're hungry as she's putting a plate of food in front of you. You know, she's saying, "Are you hungry? Eat, eat, eat." She's not saying, you know, hey, what can I do for the kids? She's saying, I washed the kids' clothes. I gave all the kids showers and made sure they brushed their teeth. She's not asking or talking. She does. She's out there, go, 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 go. She works very hard, extreme sense of purpose. That's twos have a very deep sense of purpose, and that is we. There's a sense of we. That's all they are. They are team focused. They are not self focused. They don't talk about themselves. They don't talk about their passions and interests. And very, almost always, they're going to let them slide under the rug. If you go and talk to them, they might talk to you about their passions and interests if you're lucky. But they're not going to talk about their own. They don't talk about their passions. They also don't take care of themselves because they're worried about everybody else. They're team focused, and because of that, they don't take care of themselves very well. They also are not mission focused because of that. They just want to sit around and be comfortable as we. They want to get along with people. They're very jovial, happy people generally. Um, Okay, so type twos, caring, generous, contributors. They roll up the sleeves. As I said, they don't talk about it. They're going to go do the work. That's what they do. They just do it. They don't talk. Um, because of that, the twos are very easy to face read. I can look at twos and know them immediately. They suffer from a lot of disappointment. They go out and help people all day, and when their needs don't get met, how does that feel? Uh, so do they need to retire? No, they should just work for 70 years straight. And after 70 years, the world should support them because they worked so hard their whole lives. That's how it should be, right? And so they are prone to a lot of disappointment. They have high expectations. They give, give, give. And when they don't get that back, they're disappointed. They're also extremely prideful and stubborn. That's some of the more difficult things about twos. They're very prideful because of that. They want to be seen as being perfect. The advice they give, they don't want to be argued with. Their good intentions, they don't want questioned. The things that they give, they don't want asked for. They want to be able to give it freely. These things that make twos quite prideful, but also stubborn. Stacy's mom, like one of the employees of some store pissed her off 30 years ago. She'll never go back to that store again. She'll tell everybody to never go back to that store again. I don't care about this lady's experience at the store 30 years ago. I'm still going to shop there. I don't care. But that's how she is, a very, very, very stubborn. So twos can be very stubborn. I use this in my company a lot too. This is how I form my management teams. This is how I hire. I use this information. So my leadership, my biggest boss in my company is a two. He doesn't care about the mission. He's not helping me grow the company, and he doesn't take care of himself. All he does is sit around and take care of the team. That's all he wants. That's all his language is us, we, comfortability. It's warmth and reassurance, security. That's what you get from him, and that's why he's very good in his role. Because of that, he's very team oriented. Okay, so twos. Big. I see lots and lots of twos in hypnosis. It's maybe it might it's right up there. It's probably the most popular personality type to come into the hypnosis industry. And it's because they're out there to help other people. Can face read people. I'm guessing Rick is a two by looking at his face. So we'll get into face reading. Um, and maybe
That's a good number to.
it's a great number. And SD too. I imagine both you guys are twos. Um, okay, that's another thing. We're going to talk about a lot of negative traits. There are no negative traits. All right. We are all exactly as we're supposed to be because math dictates it for society to exist. That might sound crazy, maybe even a little schizophrenic, but it's true. All right. Math, I don't know why, but that's when I understand to the 1% now is that math is what controls all this. It is math that dictates the dissemination of personality traits, the yin and yang, the dichotomy of things, and why things are the way they are. It's all mathematical. I don't know why, but I do know that it is. Um, so it's all controlled. And when you get to that, it means that we all have the traits that we have for a reason. It's because there's some yin yang between us and other people in our society. It's so that roles develop and so that efficacy happens, and so that change happens. It all happens. I'm not sure if it's by like a God's design, but there is an efficiency that causes personality traits to arise. Get into that real quick. I'll tell you guys my cat story. All right. So my dad is a very interesting individual. I used to go growing up, visit my dad down in Oklahoma. Growing up, my dad had lots and lots of cats. The minimum he ever had at any time was five or six, which doesn't sound like much. Sometimes over about 100. Okay, so on,
Pretty sure
yeah,
30, I think, when I was there.
yeah, 30 is about average. And that's plus dogs and ferrets, blah, 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 blah. So the 30 cats my dad doesn't take care of. They sit around and pee and poop. There's roaches. It is not a normal place. Okay. All right. So I used to go visit my dad every summer and every winter down in Texas and Oklahoma, and he had all these cats. And I go visit my dad, had all these cats, and I sit around and see these cats when I'd come once a year or twice a year, observe these cats, and get to know their names, get to know their personality types. Then I'd go back home. And I'd come back a year later, and some of the cats would be new. New cats, some of the old cats died. He adopted new cats, whatever it is. As you observe these cats, and year after year, I observed these cats. What I ended up observing was that there was a set different personality types within the cats. So you'd have the funny cat that was, doing weird athletic stuff. You have the lab cat that sit around and purr in people's lap. You have the dominant cat that no other cat wants to mess with. You got the scaredy cat that would go and try to figure out how to hide in the cupboard so that nobody else could find him. There's all these different personality types. Now, I'm not saying that what I experienced back then was Enneagrams. However, I can Enneagram each of those cats that I saw as a kid. Like now that I have my understanding that I do now, those were maybe Enneagrams. It could be that I'm not sure if it's the straight nine. It could be five or seven in the cat kingdom, but there's at least five major personality types that I've seen in cats that overlap with Enneagram. So, just a quick little story. Anyways, I started seeing personality types even growing up within cats. Um, so, getting to the personalities, we're talking about the two. Let me get back to that real quick. So, angels on earth, deep sense of purpose. I was in Hawaii last year and I was standing at the street corner at midnight, waiting for the light to be able to walk across the street. And I saw this lady, is probably about 70, 75 years old, Asian lady, probably Korean, and she's just like walking with purpose, like no nonsense. Is she looking around? No. She's walking swiftly. She stops at the light and she's not angry, but I can just sense she is going somewhere no nonsense. She's not going to go fucking drink some sake somewhere. She's going to work. She is on her way on a mission with a deep sense of purpose to work, no frills, no nonsense. The light turned green and she crossed on her way to work. And I immediately could tell. It's like once you start getting at this stuff, like that lady is a two. Like she has a deep sense of purpose to go to work. And you could just see it all over. Okay, all right, going on. I gotta get my computer load here again. All right. So twos, over nurturing. That's a big part. They help other people. They don't help themselves. So oftentimes they'll have dissociative behavior, poor diet, poor exercise. They don't pursue their own passions and interests, things like that. So their go state is helping. That's clear. Their no state is probably their pride. Very prideful and stubborn people. Um, so dominant, equal, subordinate, they're equals, clearly. And their pride also won't let them be a subordinate. That's another thing about twos. They won't subordinate. They they have a hard time being forced to appease because of their pride. Um, okay, four F response is appeasement. Three is appeasement. Got a hard head. All right. So the two, the three, and the four, you're now getting into the heart triad. These are feelers. Oh, time flies. Okay, so um, they're feelers. Well, you're gonna be able to see it right on their face. When you look at the three segments of the face, here's one from the eyebrow up to the hairline. That's one. Then you have from the eyebrow down to the bottom of the nose right here. That's two. That's your center section. And then you have from the bottom of the nose down to the chin. That's section three. All right. So you got one, two, three. Twos have very small center sections. Their noses are not tall. It doesn't mean that they can't be wide and take up volume. The height of the nose is shorter. All right. So the smaller the center section, the more team focused. The larger the center section, the more self-significance, self-focus, and mission focus. The smaller somebody's center section, the more team oriented they're going to be. With twos, they have short noses, or relatively. You can see it right in their face. It's also coupled by in the chin. So the wider the chin, the more altruistic somebody is in their decision making. So if you have a more pointed chin, you see mine, it's not wide. It's not exactly like pointed, like somebody is super self-focused, but I have I consider a somewhat pointed chin. It also goes with the taller nose, a bigger sense of significance. I am self-focused and mission-focused, and you can see that in everything that I do. So, um, anyways, so with twos, they will have a broader chin. They get a big, broad chin. I bet it looking uh, nice chin on you there. So you get a smaller center section and a wider chin on twos. And so I can look at twos from a distance and almost immediately, if I don't know that they're a two, I know that they're nice. So that's where we're going to start. When I get into face reading, those are the two things I look at. I'm going to talk about eyebrows and noses because that is how you can tell most of your information about anybody from 100 feet away is their eyebrows and noses. But the nose is what gives away the two. They have generally smaller center sections. If you start getting a little bit larger, that shows more significance that you're okay with sticking out from everybody else, which would make you probably lean towards the three, which we're going to talk about. So I'm guessing you'd be a two-wing three, which is closer towards a helper that goes into a leadership position. So, okay. Even with root, I'll just, sorry to label you. I would automatically assume that you're a two, just looking at you. You still have a little bit of height through there, but if you were to look at Rick's and my nose, we have completely different noses, right? His is a jovial nose. He has a nice, kind nose. I have a significance nose, a self-focused nose. Like, make sure that I get seen from the side. You see how much different I look from the side than anybody else? So you can clearly see that I am James, right? I don't blend into the crowd. So, significance. Okay. Um, So what are we talking about with twos? We're talking about gut, heart, head. They are of the gut triad, or I'm sorry, the heart triad. They're feelers. You can see it. Their bottom section is going to be the biggest. So they're going to have big, strong jaws. So somebody with big, strong jaws, they're feelers. They're kinesthetic. They're somatic. It also means that they're going to be gustatory and olfactory too. So twos, threes, and fours have great senses of taste and smell. Also see them cooking a lot. A lot of times I'll ask a two, three, or a four, like you probably got a good sense of smell. Oh, it's funny you say that. I own a food truck. I get that so much. Twos, threes, and fours are big in the food. Um, it's going into hypnosis. That's good to know for you guys too, because twos are going to be very kinesthetic. They're going to be very somatic. Anything that you do with them is going to be very effective. You're going to zonk them. You don't need to do guided visualizations with twos because they're not so much cerebral. They're not visual in their head, sitting there thinking. They're feelers, a lot more feeling in their body. Uh, Social, intimate, self-preservation instinct. So they're a social instinct, right? And look and make sure everybody else's needs are getting met. Intimate I mean, they'll sit there and talk with people. They don't go into deep, intimate conversations, from my experience. The same as well. They have a hard time being vulnerable. Self-preservation instinct. Why are they that way? Because they're not going to get kicked out of the group. They're the most helpful person. They don't talk about the work they're up front doing it. Who's going to fire that guy? Nobody. That person is safeguarded in their group. Go state their helper, no state pride. Self-team, mission focused. They're going to be team focused, very low focus on mission. Probably can't even get them to focus on the mission because they just care about making sure everybody is comfortable here and today. Appeal to logic, fear, self, and emotion. Appeal to emotion works well in them. They're emotional people. If you can talk about specifically the best appeal on it too, is why what you're saying is going to be good for everybody. Why what you're saying is going to make everybody feel good. That is the goal of the two. That's what the two wants. So if you're able to appeal, well, if we were to do this, I know the group would be happiest. Like, bing. That's what you say to the two to appeal to them. That's what they want to hear. They don't want what makes them happy. They want what's going to make the group happy, right? Um, okay. Going on to type three. Type three, so I see a lot of threes in the hypnosis industry as well. The type three, um, you could call them the achiever, the successor. You could call them the communicator. You could call them a few different things. They are the natural order. They're the leaders in the natural order. Is actually the three. Uh, Threes are extremely adaptive. They don't force themselves into anything. They come in and say what is, and they're perceptive to everybody. They're very team focused, but they do have mission. They don't put a focus on themselves. They're extremely patient. You can see it on their face. Oh, you think you're a three? I think you're a six, like me. Hmm. Well, I'm a lot better than the test. I'm just telling the truth. Okay. Well, let me talk about sixes and we'll talk. Okay. So, all right, we got some people don't, it's, honest to God, it's usually sixes that don't like talking to me because I lay it out. Um, All right, so threes are the communicators. They're when I go and look for a leader, when I'm looking for the leader in this library, and I'm looking for like a threat, a dominance. That's what I'm looking for. I'm nor based on who I am, that's what I perceive as a natural leader. All right, are these threats to me? That's not reality. That is not the natural leader. All right. That's what I see as a threat, and that's what I look like. That's what I look for. That's not the leader in the group. It's along the misnomer of what an alpha male is. They say, the alpha male is the one that's the toughest in the group and gets all the females, this, that, and other. It's not true. The alpha male is the one that has the most influence with females. The male that is most influential with women is the leader of the group. That is the leader. The toughest guy in the group is not the leader. It is the one who has influence over women is the leader of the group. If the leader of the group is in control of the dominant tough guy because he's the leader, then he's the alpha male. The toughest guy in the group is not the leader. And oftentimes isn't because they're not going to have a good relationship with the leader in the group because they're going to be at constant ends trying to challenge the leader, and the leader is going to have to appease and adapt and be like, "Yeah, don't kick my ass, man." Going to be sitting there doing all this appeasement all day to make it work. And if the dominant did come to try to kick the ass of the leader, what's going to happen? The whole group is going to defend the leader, right? So is it about if one wolf is tougher than the other? No, the toughest wolf isn't the alpha male. That's just not how it works. So when you're looking at leaders, when I'm going around, I'm looking for the type A. I'm looking for the challenger, the dominant, tough dude that's walking around saying, I'm a threat to everybody. And when I see that guy, I'm like, ooh, big tough guy, must be a leader. Because that's how I feel. That's my natural response. In reality, threes are the natural leaders in the world. They don't idealize dominance. They're not trying to bully people. They're not being impatient. They're not trying to coerce and manipulate to get to the top. They're patient. They sit around and say, what are the needs of the group? And how do I make sure that the needs of the group are getting met? And with extreme patience, they find themselves in leadership positions. That's their ultimate goal. They want to lead the group, but they don't start. They're not going to come in an organization and start that way. So as I start seeing threes everywhere and truly understand that they're actually the world's leaders. It's because they're not forcing their way into anything. They are the voice of reason and stoicism that allows people to have, you know, that sense of leadership. Um, so yeah, it could be the achiever, the performer would be the four, I would call the three achiever, the successor. You could say the successor, the achiever. Um, there's so much you could talk about with these guys. Threes are highly idealistic. They take on the ideals that are given to them from birth. Oh my God, you're so athletic. One day you're going to make $2 million. Give me your first million in the NFL, right? Like, well, if I stay athletic, I'll be able to join the NFL, get millions of dollars, give my dad $1 million, make him happy. That's a path to success. I'm going to grow up and join the NFL, be athletic, right? Or what if I were to tell my son who is a three, like, oh, you're so successful, get rich one day, and money is going to be the way to happiness, and that's what my kid's going to believe. So threes, they will take on idealisms that they're taught. It could be you're so good with the ladies, you're so funny. It could be any of these different things. They take on these idealisms, and that's what they path their life after. They say, how am I going to be successful in life? Well, if I'm rich, if I'm funny, if I have a good reputation, or these different things, that this is what's going to get me there. They also, because of those idealisms, they are the most disattached with who they actually are. because they live their lives around these idealisms. They don't know what actually is going to make them happy in life. They've been told the recipe by everybody else, and oftentimes they get midlife crises. They get into their 30s and 40s. A lot of threes will join like law enforcement. You'll see a lot of threes in law enforcement because it's a tried and true system. It's been around for hundreds of years. It's the reputation is there, the prestige is there. There's some money in there. There's all this growth, and when they take their badge off at home, they're still a cop. It's so easy for them to identify that way. But when they hit 40 and take their badge off or retire or whatever, who are they? Who is that person? They don't know because they've just been living their life chasing what everybody has been telling them is going to get them to success. And so you get threes with midlife crises. So, under a better understanding of self and an understanding of what is the life path of a three, and as a hypnotist, and you're able to make that positive influence with them, it's helping them understand where they actually want to go in life versus social image. They are very much like the one where they're controlled by social image all day. They care about their image. Am I being viewed as somebody with a good decision? Are people going to listen to me? How am I being seen? All these things. At the end of life, as they look down, they want to be proud of everything that they've created. They need it to be seen by everybody. That guy did a good job in his life, right? But that's up to us as the individual, what it means to make the most of this life, right? It's not up to everybody else. And if we are living our lives by social image, by control of that, being told what it means to live our lives, we're not gonna feel like we're ultimately living. And I think that's what threes ail from. Um, okay. Skilled communicators, excellent leaders, most adaptive leaders because they don't force themselves to the front. They're honesty driven. When I go to talk to a three, that's what I have to be sure of is that I am being completely honest and transparent and not assumptuous and let them come up with their own decisions. I can bombard threes with information sometimes, and they have a hard time saying, I'm not sure about that. They adapt and they appease and okay, and they sit there and listen sometimes. But they have to trust what you're saying. Otherwise, they're just going to appease and just kind of just be there with you because they don't want to confront you. So, threes are very honesty driven. If they trust you, they will follow you. The the leader will follow you, no problem, if they trust you. What if the three doesn't trust you? Are they going to follow you? No, because they don't know that you're going to lead them to success. If they think that you're going to get them to success, they'll follow you. But if they don't, they will not. Why would they? So they're very honesty driven, and that's also their no state. They're very controlling of that image. What happens when they make mistakes? They're much more likely to cover it up. So the no state of the three is that they're deceitful, is that they will lie to cover up their mistakes. Um, is that success oriented to lie when you make mistakes? No. So are they going to lie about lying? Yes. So threes. Okay. Go state, success driven, malleable, happy. They usually can be athletic because they're of the heart triad. Bigger jaws. They're more generally more athletic people. So twos, threes, and fours. But yeah, they'll generally be more athletic. And to be a communicator, you'll also see them do like funny things to kind of establish themselves in the group. I see threes. They'll make like sports jokes and stuff, which it's like good to gain rapport with the guys, but it's like I just see these little natural behaviors that they're trying to naturally make their way to the top. If I were to interview a three, I ask everybody, what do you rank words of recognition, right? Do you need to be recognized by who you help, by your peers that you work with, or your managers? Do you need to be told good job, like recognition, right? Recognition is probably the most important thing to anybody. So this is a trick question, my interview question, because recognition is really the most important to anybody. All right, so you got recognition, you got monetary pay. What do you make? What about awards, placards? You did a great job, Lydia. Here's a certificate of achievement. Or do you want flexible time off? You don't want to feel like you're being forced to come to work. You know, you're here at your own leisure. That's PTO. All right. So now we're at the four. The fifth, promotion. Do you want to make your way up through the ranks? So what do you care about? Do you want to get recognized? Do you want to get paid? Awards, PTO, or promotion? Now, in the case of the three, what do they want? I already know that they want money and recognition and promotion. The biggest one is promotion. That's what they want. You know who has never said promotion in an interview to me? A three. The three has never once told me that they want to move up in rank. Why? Because they're expertly patient. They're extremely patient. They come into a social organization with great patience. They make their way to the top through good decision making and stoicism. They don't force and claw their ways to the top. They don't manipulate their ways to the top like other personality types we're going to get into. So also you can face rate threes. They generally have very nice eyebrows, big, wide eyebrows showing lots of social capacity, but the gap in between the eyebrow here. So you can look at the gap between the eyebrow and tell how frustrated people get. If you guys were to look at the picture on your that I sent you guys, that's got the emotional map, you can look at the irritation lines right there. So jumping all over the place here. Get these irritation lines. As we get irritated and impatient and cynical and analyzing, our eyes come together and it forms these lines here. You see these? I got these kind of pointed little lines here. These are kind of like a deep frustration lines right here that I get. There's different lines. People just get irritation lines. They'll have two lines. That's the most common one, like Stacy is a good example. Though those are just regular irritation lines. That's regular. I get deep frustration. You can see because those lines come inward. And then you get, I'm all over the place. Then they have something that's called a suspended dagger, which is a single line that goes down the center of the face. And that is indicative of suppressed rage. It's somebody is, when they're young, that they express outward emotion and they get inhibited. Said, you can't do that, controlled, bottle it up. You're not going to yell at me like that, or I'm going to punish you. All these things, they get controlled. And so they all this frustration they get pent up and now they're out in society and aren't allowed to release it. So that's kind of pent up frustration and that's a single line and that is a security risk. All right, so if you were to see somebody with just a single line going down their face, that's a suspended dagger, and then it gets longer because it's a suspended sword, and then suspended is it needle, dagger, scimitar? That's what it is. Yeah, the scimitar is the biggest one. Thomas has a freaking scimitar. It's nuts. I have a friend with I have a friend with complex PTSD, sociopathy, like all the like he has very violent person. He's got a big old suspended scimitar. It's right on him. I'm gonna get into face reading. You can see PTSD right in his eyes. It's just all right there. Anyways, so now the three is why we're talking about this. In between the face, are you gonna see irritation lines in the face of the three? No. They don't get irritated. They're patient and adaptive. They're not sitting there trying to control everybody all day, so you don't get irritation lines. Also, the gap in between here is going to be very large. All right, and that's called the father's blessing. If you have a big father's blessing, the father is saying, you know, you're going to need some patience, work your way up through the organization. Don't just go to the top. It takes time. Don't just go in there and you know start shaking things up at day one. So that's the father's blessing. So you'll see that in the threes. They have very nice broad eyebrows. The eyebrows themselves, the shape of the brow, and loads of patience. Lots and lots of patience through the face of the throne. Um, okay, what's six? Get to it. Yeah. Okay. There's good stuff about healthing toward. So we're gonna get to the six. The six shouldn't go to the three. We're going to talk about integration versus disintegration. We'll get to it. Okay. The three is extremely team focused. little mission. There's a little bit of mission in there, so they can look more long term than a two, but still they're more about appeasing the team. They're going to get the team where the team wants to go versus where they want to go. Appeal to logic, fear, self emotion. Probably just kind of like the two. Appeal to logic and emotion. What's going to be best for the team? Um, if you were to try to elicit a strong emotional response from the three, they're the most stoic of all the personality types too. You can also see in their lips. They have not big, thick, voluptuous, sensual lips. They have thin, parsed lips, and they just kind of sit there. Like threes are generally very stoic. Um, and if you were to appeal to emotion, it probably just isn't going to work. They're stoic people. Um, okay, go state is success. Adaptiveness, friendliness, team orientation. Uh, like Jody, you guys know Jody. Jody is to me a pretty clear three. She listens to other people. She doesn't force her way into things. She wants to make sure everybody's needs are being met. When the position opened up to the board, did she volunteer and say, "I want to be president"? No, she got delegated by everybody, right? She made sure that the group selected her. There's a lot there. Um, okay. No, as I'm saying, is no state is deceit. When they make mistakes, they don't want it to be seen, so they'll cover up their mistakes. Um, Going on to the four, type four are probably my favorite. I love type fours, the individualist. I'm always drawn to type fours, also because they're the most authentic. That is their language. They want to be authentic. They want to be true. They want to be safe and secure. They want to be themselves without judgment. They just want to be able to be, because that's their right. That's what they're That's their basic inalienable human right is just to be able to be comfortable and be without a judgment. That's what the fourth want. Okay, so um, fours, oftentimes I mix them up with twos because fours are very helpful in their search to just be uncomfortable. They want to be comfortable in the group. If they're feeling undue pressure because they're not sharing their burden, are they going to feel comfortable? No. To feel comfortable, they got to feel comfortable in the group. So they got to be on good terms with everybody. So they work hard and they're driven and principalistic because of that. They're also trustworthy and dependable. They'll give their all to other people, primarily because they're trying to increase their value. This is how I frame. There's a couple different ways. This is maybe a negative frame, but it's how I understand it. It's just that fours are afraid of getting kicked out of the group. That's how I look at it. Is that fours do everything they can because they have to. Because they have to do everything to get along. They have to pick up their slack. They have to be liked by other people is because they have to do the work because naturally they don't want to. They just want to be comfortable. They don't think that they should have to in this world, but they realize that they have to. With the two, it's different. Twos help people because that is to their core. It's just what you do. It's kind of like the one, the perfectionist. It's just how you are, right? The fours do things out of necessity in order to get back to a place of comfort. So that's a point of contention with me and Stacy sometimes, but that's just how I see it, and that's how I understand it and compare it to other people. Fours do help from a place of discomfort. And it's also why fours, when we're going to get into health, integrating and disintegrating, when you look at the four, they're going to disintegrate into the two. So as they stress, they're going to exhibit helping behavior. They're going to exhibit appeasing behavior to get along with other people. But that's not what they need to be doing. They actually need to be healthing into the perfectionist and taking care of themselves and being more principalistic and idealistic instead of appeasing to other people. So in the case, at least with Stacy, I see her when she gets stressed, OCD behavior will start going around obsessively cleaning and trying to control. Um, so okay, so fours, go state. I don't know, authenticity. If I were to see, all right, male fours are the easiest for me to tell. If I see a male who is dressing like, let's say, I'll just say metrosexual. There's something that is less than typical. They're trying to express who they are outwardly. They're saying, this is who I am, and I want everybody to see. They're showing their authenticity. So fours, they'll have outrageous outfits. That's just the truth of it. To me, they look more outrageous than anybody else. Are fours. If you were to see a male four that is dressing how they want, they are not controlled by society, that they don't care about their sexuality, that they'll talk about all these things with other people. That is a very healthy four. That is somebody who is not controlled, who is able to be authentic and be true to themselves and to other people. An unhealthy four is controlled and reserved and isn't colorful and bright, right? So if you were to see a male that's walking around in metrosexual clothing and a weird fedora and all this other stuff, he's probably a four, like just right, just like that. That's you've got an individualist that is expressing themselves. Like that's probably a four and doesn't want to be controlled by other people. That's why they're showing themselves outwardly. They're saying this is who I am and I don't want to be controlled by you. So fours, their natural language is authenticity. That's the biggest thing that I see with fours that are the dead giveaway to me. Um, their no state, you can say melancholy, melancholic language. Their inner critic is really bad. They get very much controlled by their inner critic, and it'll start tanking them down. Um, we don't have that very much time. That's already 11:34.
This is a two-part class.
It's like a 20 part. There's so much to talk about here. We're talking about, in a whole other conversation of ADHD versus complex PTSD versus everything else that's out there in the DSM-5. My understanding right now is most of the things in the DSM-5 are, um, what would you say? What is the term? Misdiagnosed. You would just say misdiagnosed. Most of the DSM-5 can be simplified down to ADHD and complex or PTSD into complex PTSD. That is the basis for the majority of the mental health disorders out there. And the base of ADHD and complex PTSD is emotional abuse. It's not physical and sexual abuse like most of us think. It's actually emotional abuse that we are all subject to from birth. If we're a human or a rabbit, whatever, we get exposed to emotional abuse, and that is the number one teacher of us. Emotional abuse is what we're all exposed to. Emotional abuse leads to ADHD, which leads to PTSD, which leads to all these other mental health disorders. Why I bring this up is fours are rejection sensitive. They're sensitive to getting kicked out of the group. They're hypersensitive to it. So I have the belief that fours are much more likely to develop mental health disorders because of that. I think fours are more likely to get ADHD, into PTSD, into all kinds of other issues because they look for rejection. It's because they look for it, that because they seek it, they get what they find. Yeah, and it causes development of all kinds of different things, but ADHD at minimum. I see ADHD is very frequent in fours. Also, you can do a lot of medical stuff with this, which, maybe shut the microphone off here for a bit, but you can do a lot of predictive stuff off of Enneagrams. I would imagine fours, when they get the most unhealthy, are the most likely to kill themselves because they feel most disattached from other people, the least supported and least understood. And why would you want to live in that? Like fours have it worst in how they frame the world, and their language gets them there. So the no state of the four is that melancholic language. And so it's always, and that's why hypnosis is so powerful for fours, because you get an NLP, positive framing, future pacing, all of these things that work incredibly well. So you see a lot of fours, also because fours are self-actualizers. They're learners, they're observers, they're intelligent and imaginative. Fours are some of the most creative people and imaginative. They're the best problem solvers. If I were to say I'm dealing with this problem, I'm going to probably just do this. She'll say, well, why don't you do this or that or that or that or that or that or that or that? And I'm like, what the heck? I have to give it patience in the first place. Okay, let's consider these then. Fine. Oh, actually, that does make sense. Oh, like that's a good option too. And that's just how it is. I don't have the patience to consider options. She does. She'll think of all these things. Why? Because she's trying to make sure that every person's needs are getting met. And it's kind of like the two. It's a sense of appeasement, making sure that everybody's needs are being met. So fours, individualists, they're also very artsy, creative. Pretty much any four, you give them any instrument, they're going to be able to play them. So fours are generally extremely very creative and artistic. You see a lot of performers that are four-winged threes. So you got the three that is confident and a leader and all of these things. The four isn't naturally a confident and leader. They're maybe closer to the opposite, where they're fearful and individualistic, where they don't want to be led or leading. And so you get the four-wing three, which is the self-confident, artistic, imaginative person. And then you get individualists with bigger noses and a lot more significance and confidence. And so the four-wing three is the performer, is what I would call the performer, is the four-wing three. You see loads and loads and loads of actors and musicians that are four-wing threes. Um, and a lot of people in the hypnosis industry. See a lot of four-wing threes in the hypnosis industry and three-wing fours. Okay, fours, getting through it. They're of the heart triad. They're feelers. They're the biggest feelers. They're the most feeling of the feelers. When they feel, they feel. Um, just a real quick tidbit. We're talking about ADHD, PTSD. I'm sorry to talk about Stacy. I'm a combat vet. I got back from Iraq, went to all kinds of stuff that taught me all kinds of stuff about PTSD. I thought I was a subject matter expert on PTSD after all the training and seminars and therapy that I went through. A few years ago, I read a book by Pete Walker called Complex PTSD, thinking that I was going to be reading about myself. I'm going to learn about James. But as I started reading this book, so little of it was about me, and the rest of it was about everybody else that I know and everybody else on this planet. Most of that book was coming to understand everybody else. So starting to see that PTSD is everywhere in everybody. PTSD isn't something that you experience enough trauma and then there's a switch. It's a sliding scale. It's from no behavior, super happy, healthy, no understanding of danger in your environment, all the way to the sliding end. PTSD is a scale. It's prevalent in everybody, and I think it's important for all of us to come and learn more about PTSD. But it also helps in Enneagrams and also understanding basic human instinct. Okay, so the four PTSD, more likely to develop ADHD, studying PTSD, started reading this book, learning about myself. Oh, there's my brother. There's my friend Thomas. And I start reading this book. Oh, there's Stacy they're talking about here. I remember coming home and I started talking to Stacy and she started bringing up a childhood memory. And she brought up a childhood memory of when her best friend rejected her. This, traumatic memory of her childhood. And as she brings it up, I didn't ask her to bring that up. I didn't tell her to tank herself. I didn't say, hey, go make yourself feel like shit. I didn't say that. She voluntarily did that because of the inner critic, and she ran with the thought and started embodying this emotional experience, right? So she's embodying this traumatic experience and replaying it, but she's not there. I can see it right in her face. I can see the whole shift in her body, like her eyes go down, her shoulders roll, and her breath rate and her heart rate changes. And what is that? That's an amygdala hijack. If you're looking at, that's PTSD. That is from something triggering that emotional response in the amygdala, and the amygdala hijacks and takes over the whole rest of the brain. The whole prefrontal cortex gets shut down because of this tiny little raisin up front, and her amygdala is just sitting there going zing, 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 and making her feel all these emotions. I could just see it everywhere through her. I mean, what would we call that typically? That's a flashback. That's a flashback. And for me, being a combat vet, dealing with all the stuff that I've dealing with people with crazy PTSD and killing themselves over it, and my understanding of what a flashback was, that was a life-changing moment for me to see that my wife has worse complex PTSD than I do, and then all the military veterans that I've served with, which, I'm not going to get into her history, but it's from emotional abuse. So as we come to understand personality types, how important is that to know? The personality type and how rejection sensitive they are, or their inner critic and all these things is what position is it going to get them into in the first place? There's a lot that we can learn from this. Okay, so the type four that's got that strong inner critic is the melancholic language. It's I am always from a place of enthusiasm, happy-go-lucky, and then we have this clash. And so, me and Stacy were a great learning duo because we're just so different in so many different ways. But that melancholic language is the no state. That's what it. I shouldn't make it about me. Sorry. Okay, so four. Type four is I can get melancholic. Four response. They run away, freeze and run away. That's their 4F response. Thirdly, they'll appease. If they're forced into it, fine, fine, you're right. But lastly, they'll fight. They don't defend their boundaries. They don't get the respect that they think that they deserve, and they don't fight for it either. And so they just feel like a doormat. And so because of that, fours are least likely to fight until they're so fed up that it's just not a good place to be. If you got a four that's willing to fight you, you didn't do it right. So, um, 4F response, we already know the heart triad, social, intimate, self-preservation. They're strong, intimate instincts. They are going to sit there and talk to you. They're going to understand you. They're going to know your interests, your passions, and they're going to memorize it. They're going to know everything about you. And when I go to interact with you next time, I'm going to have all this bit of information because I had this intimate think I actually was curious and learned about you. I actually was listening. So that's the four. That's not me. I'm pretending I'm Stacy right now because I'm not like that. I try to pay attention to people, but it's all about me. I'm all in my head. Fours are sitting there memorizing all this stuff about everybody else because they're genuinely interested in other people. They want to help other people, but it also adds more value to them because now they're interesting, right? That they have a bit of an edge. They could be witty, charismatic, enigmatic even. So that's the comfort place of the four instead of being spotlighted for everything on broadcast. So um, self-team mission focus, self-focus. Fours want to be comfortable. They have self-focus into team because they make sure that the team's needs are met because of that. They make sure the team's needs are met so that their own needs are met. And that's what I'm saying. This is the point of contention with me and Stacy there. But that's how I see it. Twos make sure other people's needs are met for their own needs to get met. It's a little bit different. Twos and fours are so similar but different. Um, okay, and appeal. If you were to use appeal to emotion on a four, it's the only personality type that you could. If you needed to get somebody moving in a case of emergency, you could appeal to emotion of four. You could say, I really need help moving this person, or he's going to die, and it's going to be your fault he's dead. And she's going to be like, what the fuck? She's going to get over there and go help me move. Like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to be observed as doing something horrible like that. That's an appeal to fear. And it's the type four is basically the only person I would ever do that to because they will, because they don't want to get in trouble. But you don't know what emotion you're going to get back. That's the thing when you appeal to fear. Anybody, you don't know what you're going to get back. Appeal to emotion, you don't know what you're going to get back. If you elicit a four into a state of fear, you're going to get that though. They're going to get up and get moving because they're not going to be comfortable anymore. Okay. Any questions about four before we move on? Okay, moving on, we got the type five. The type five is the observer, or what I would call the learner. Learners, their primary response is they're kind of disassociated. They're generally more quiet. They sit around and observe. They're not as talkative. When they do talk, they're usually somewhat funny. They're usually a bit witty, because they're intelligent. It's usually like the smart ass is kind of the five. The five is the smart ass. Is probably what I call them. Uh, Learner, smart ass. So Fives, their no state is learning. That's they sit around and observe. They want to have a deeper, better understanding of things in the world, and that's what they get. They get a better understanding of everything more than anybody. They become the subject matter experts. That's the fives. But the thing with fives, they don't have any confidence. They sit around. They're trying to develop these master plans, so they get the confidence. So they don't have the confidence. They try to build up the confidence, and there's no guarantee that they ever get it. So a lot of the times, like if I were to talk to a five that were starting a business, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just still getting everything going. I'm just getting everything all lined up, nice and perfect." Like, well, what are your next steps to get it started? When are you going to open that business? When are you going to go make $1 on it? It's like, well, just get everything lined up. So like that's kind of the theme of the five is this kind of freeze. So if you're looking at the 4F, they're freezers. That's what they do. They're going to freeze. They disassociate. Freeze behavior leads to other dissociative disassociative behaviors as well. Not just the five, but anybody that does dissociative behaviors. So you're going to go to material addictions like carbohydrates and sugar, alcohol, smoking, all these other things. But ultimately, it's just the dopamine addiction is at the bottom of it. So they're going to be experiencing dopamine addiction to help them cope with their everyday life. Fives are deeply imaginative. They're probably, I would say, the smartest of the personality types. They're very, very bright and intelligent. They're in their head, looking deep into the future. They're also extremely idealistic. They're the most idealistic of the personality types. Whatever they view is possible. And if they think that it's possible, if they think that if they can see it, then it's possible. And if it's possible, then it's a reality. It must be. And if you were to say, well, not really, they're going to get mad at you. Like, well, I can see it. Like, what you're saying doesn't match my idealism. They are also truth keepers of information. As they collect information and facts, they want to make sure that it all is all correct. So they are very cynical and argumentative. If you were to try to say anything to a five, they will argue with you. For example, I told my brother he was a five, and he said, "No, I'm not." Well, fives are really argumentative, intelligent, and cynical. What are you? And he had to sit there and read it. It took him like 30 minutes of sitting there reading it until he was able to be like, I see what you're saying here, but he still couldn't help but want to argue with it. It's because they're gatekeepers. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that what they know is actually true. They don't bring in bullshit, and they're not gonna let out bullshit because what they have is true. They're not bullshitters. So people can wing into the five, interestingly. Like a six can wing into the five, which is what I think I am. And Stacy, I think she wings into the five as a four-wing five. So as an individualist, she ends up being more quiet and reserved and freezing and lack of confidence, but more imaginative and intelligent and self-actualization. So that's the four-wing five versus the four-wing three that's going to be more confident and artistic and showy and be on stage and be okay with being seen but doesn't come out with as great of a self-understanding. They're not as introspective because they're just out there being showy all day rather than being fearful and trying to be inward and understand themselves. So all right, so you got fives. Let's keep talking about these guys. Their go state is their learning, observing, sitting around being quiet, and they're smart. That's their go state. Their no state is detachment. Oh, I don't care, going to freeze up. They are going to play video games and eat carbohydrates, sit on the couch instead of fighting the fight. Are they going to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? They are not going to fight. They don't fight. They idealize that they will fight. A healthy five will fight. A healthy five will get the confidence. They'll develop the dominance. They'll get the competence. They'll be confident because they are so competent they can't help but be confident. A lot of times fives will get into their work and they'll know so much about their study because they went to school for it for years. They studied it as their passion, their interest, their hobby before they ever did it. And so oftentimes fives will show up in their work and be better at their job than the people who have been doing it for 10 years because they are so interested in what they study. Another thing about fives, they usually, just to throw a number out there, they kind of pick their hobbies and interests. They got like, let's say there are five things that they're super passionate about. So my brother had them. His main was like being on the computer and computers. Like my brother was huge into computers. He's a type five, um, probably a five wing four is what I call him. By the time he was maybe 10, he knew, I don't know how many computer languages. My mom grew up with computers, worked in the Air Force and Nader and all these people with computers and knew so many languages. That's what she did for a living. She was a computer programmer. And by the time my brother was growing up, knew more languages than my mom. You know what I mean? Like, how could like a 10-year-old know seven computer languages? So that's how my brother was. You might call it, we get me and Stacy talk about autism a lot. I think autism is a big misdiagnosis. It's really just PTSD. I think it's complex PTSD. So I think my brother is an autistic, or is labeled, he's diagnosed an autistic five, but not diagnosed as five, diagnosed as autistic with Asperger's syndrome growing up. But really, I think he's just a very highly intelligent five who dealt with a lot of emotional and physical abuse that led to PTSD, causing him to be withdrawn and detached and all these other things. Um, okay, so intensely curious, they say why a lot. They're the ones that say why. You see tons and tons of fives in the hypnosis industry. Why? Because they ask why. You know, where better to go than hypnosis if you're trying to get a better understanding of the world? It's not getting taught in schools. Like hypnosis is right there, right? So you see a lot of fives coming into the hypnosis industry. It's also self-serving. Fives are self-focused. If you're looking at self-team or mission, they're self-focused. They sit around and think about themselves and their own dreams and ambitions and imagination. And if their hobbies, the five things that they take interest in, if one of them helps humanity, good for humanity. But if all five of them are just their own personal hobbies and interests, they're totally cool with that. They will waste their whole lives away being the subject matter expert of some strange game or whatever. And then that's how they'll die. They'll live their whole life being the best at something that doesn't matter. And so us, if we want to be positive change workers, what can we do with a five? Is kick them in the ass and say, what are your next steps in life? What are your next steps? Stop freezing around and waiting. What are your next steps? Take that step. And that's really empowering for fives too. It's good language. Get them moving. Fives, they health into the eight. So the eight's the challenger. That's high competence, confidence. They're assertive, controlling doers. They go out and do. That's what the five healths into. That's what the five sees themselves as. They idealize as dominant. And they'll even do dominant behavior until they're confronted with it. Then they'll freeze up. Fives. I see fives that'll try to road rage with me. They get idealistic and dominant on the road and they'll do dumb things to piss me off. And then they're like, why are you being dumb with me? Then they freeze up like, what am I doing? So you'll see Enneagrams all in driving too. People somebody's car is just an extension of their body. That's why we get into road rage, because if you're going to hit my car, it's like you're hurting my body. It's our mind. We have this geospatial awareness of where our car is. It's just an extension of our body. So anyways, you can read people's personality types all day just by watching how they drive. But yeah, fives can be pricks on the road. Um, okay. Okay, thanks. All right. So fives also are very, because they're imaginative, idealistic, they can be very secretive. They're in their heads. They don't share a lot. They're not out there sharing their deepest, wildest secrets or their dreams and aspirations. They're not out there sharing it with everybody because they're generally very self-focused and reserved. Um, Go state is learning. No state is detachment, dissociative behavior. Dominant equals subordinate. You might say that they're equal, but they really come across as dominant. They're cynical and argumentative, and they think that they're smarter than everybody. And they're willing to fight people. You would think that that is dominant, right? But nah, not really. Once they are faced with danger, they will freeze. That's what it is. Uh, They are the first of the head triad. These guys are visual, they're thinkers. Let me get back. That's a whole part of why I'm here talking to you guys is this part of all this. So fives are very visual. If you're going to hypnotize them, you want to use your words. You can use words. You don't need to do anything kinesthetic at all. You can just use your words and deeply hypnotize a five. That being said, what happens if you include something kinesthetic on a five? You use a bunch of words and get them agreeable, and then you do something kinesthetic, it will zonk him. It'll zonk him. Get him really good. So maybe be aware of that and just rely on your words unless you're trying to Esdale them. And then put something somatic in there, and that's what you'll get. This is an important thing too. Going back to the four, fours are change resistant. So if I were to even say that message, fours are change resistant. Do you know what she's going to say in her head? No, they're not. All right, so change resistance. All right, so because we have little time, I'm going to try to skip ahead. This is very, very, very important for hypnosis, is understanding change resistance. Ones, fours, sixes, and eights are the four that you guys have to watch for and tailor your approach. Ones, like I was saying, is because of social image. You got to make sure that they're outward, that they're comfortable, that they know lots of information about it, that they're not risking anything to be out there. It's unknown. They're comfortable. Fours, you got to be very careful. Kind of like the five, they are gatekeepers of information, especially a four-wing five that is introspective and intelligent. They are gatekeepers of information, which makes them cynical and argumentative. So, if you were to be working with a four-wing five, uh, if you're going to do something like I'm saying, they're of heart triad, they're feelers. So let's say we want to use our words. So you're trying to hypnotize somebody with your words because they're gatekeepers of information. Every single word that you say is being judged. Every single word you say is being judged for its efficacy, if it's good or not, if she could do better than that or not. It's just judge, judge, judge. So you could say 100 words, 99 of them are perfect, scripted. He looked like Erickson himself. And then there's that one word that slips up. Her subconscious will pick up on that. It's gonna that one word. Why did they say that? They should have said that. Is that agreeableness? No, it's a form of change resistance. If you guys use incorrect words on a four, you will get change resistance. I would recommend not using words on fours. Fours are kinesthetic and somatic. They're also extreme creatures of comfort. If you get her comfortable, she'll pass out. So if you were to hypnotize Stacy, do something somatic, and it'll work heavily on her. What if you were to try to say words to her while she's in this somnambula state? Is she going to hear your words? No, it's not. She's going to be zonked out kinesthetically. If you try to use words on her, she won't hear them. If you have expectation of her to do something based on your words, she feels those expectations, but she doesn't think that those expectations are getting met, then she's going to feel like a failure. Okay. So then all of that agreeableness that you're working toward is going out the window because you used words. So how understanding how to use all this stuff as a hypnotist is just wildly powerful. So on a four, stick to kinesthetics. If you're going to do any language, it has to be clean, content free. If I were to say, imagine you're on the beach with the yellow sand, you can feel the gust on the wind and the blue water and the palm tree. That's going to drive her nuts. Every single word I am saying, she's saying, no, 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 no. That is not what I imagined. So don't do it. I would just recommend not speaking. Just do kinesthetics, or if you're going to speak, have clean language. Imagine you're on the beach, nice and relaxed. I can't mess up her image there. Whatever her image was, is her image is content free, and that is extremely important to the four. You talk about hypnotizability of people, it's wrong. It's just all these people don't have an understanding of personality types. That's the truth of it. All these suggestibility tests, they're all crap. They just don't understand personality type. Um, Understand who you're dealing with, and you'll understand that everybody is hypnotizable. Everybody. And to say that somebody is more or less is not true. It just comes down to the technique that you're using. That is literally all it is. And for the hypnotist to say that to blame the victim is just really is all it's doing is ego protection. You know, they're protecting their own ego and saying, I'm going to choose people who I know that I can hypnotize. Okay, so understanding the meta of who you're dealing with is what allows all that. Okay, all right, so moving on. We're talking about the five. Fives are simple. So whatever you're saying, you could give them a guided visualization. I think that's fine. I think you could give them a very clear image about what that beach is. And as I think of the five, the five should be able to accept it. Fours are more, even more so. But if I would probably still just recommend being content free. Use words to hypnotize the five. Probably still stay content free. If you do put in a kinesthetic, it's going to zonk them. So just know if you want to zonk them and have them be irresponsive to your word and make it a kinesthetic experience, that's what you're going to do. If you infuse it with kinesthetics, that's what you're going to get. It's no longer going to be cerebral from. Okay, all right. Appeal to logic is going to work well in the five. That's their world. Appeal to logic. They're not emotional people. Appeal to self. Why your idea is going to work well for them and why it matches their idealisms is going to work for them. Um, Probably more of self-preservation instinct if you're going to go and classify. Another way I like to classify people too is if they're autonomous or are we seeking decision making from other people. Am I looking around and saying, how do I need to be acting? Oh, well, everybody else is sitting in quiet. I should be sitting in quiet too. That's referential learning. That's learning from other people versus autonomous, asking yourself how you should be behaving. So fives are very autonomous, maybe the most autonomous. Or fours, fives, and sixes are all autonomous. They're not. There's a mix. Anyways, go on. So let's keep moving. We got the type six. The type six is the loyalist, the legist. Um, Sixes, their go state is allegiance, enthusiasm, happy-go-luckiness, leadership, happiness, right? So that's how kind of how sixes are. Um, they're they want to be good with the team. They're dependable, loyal people. Uh, the no state of the sixes, they're the most anxious, nervous, and fearful. Sixes are the most prone to social anxiety. Um, I know that firsthand. You can also face read anxiety in people's faces. I can face read sixes very well because of the significance of the nose, the pointiness of the chin, and then the emotions that they feel. If you guys look at the picture of the emotional map, I'll just real quick throw it out there. I would categorize three different ways to read somebody's face. You got the shape of somebody's face that's determined from birth. And that means that your personality is determined by your genetics from birth, which is pretty linear with everything that we already know. And then your personality changes as you live. And those are environmental changes that impact our body and impacts our mind. And then we have the lines in our face um, that is indicative of the emotions we've actually felt in our life. So we got the shape of the face, um, which we can't control. Hardly. We have the lines of our face, which are indicative of the emotions that we have felt over the last 5 to 25 years. It's right there. You can't deny it because the lines are there. You don't get the lines for no reason, right? You get the lines because you experience that emotion a lot for 5 to 25 years. So you got the face shape, then you got the lines of the emotion, and then you can get into micro expressions because of that. I don't study micro expressions. However, if I know your personality type and I can see what emotions that you're experiencing on the regular, and then you go and experience that emotion, and then I have an understanding of why you would experience that emotion, I would call that micro expressions, right? I mean, I haven't been trained in micro expressions, but that's how you use the first two. If you know somebody's face and you know their lines and you know their personality type, you can micro expression people. You can predict or guess as to what emotion somebody is experiencing and why. Because the why is the important part. Seeing that somebody is angry is only one part of the story, but understanding what personality type and what could lead them to getting angry, that's the solution to your problem. So, um, okay, moving on. We got sixes. They're allegiance. They want to know how you feel about them. That's how I want to know about all of you guys. How do you guys feel about me? And I'm constantly judging it, looking at eye contact, body position, how am I being received? Who's a threat to me? All of these things that I have to constantly evaluate because I'd say I'm a six. Um, so sixes generally are emotionally intelligent. They can be very expressive. Sixes are very easy to face read. That's one of the things I was talking about. Big, broad eyebrows, generally big, bushy eyebrows, and wide. You might even have some patience in the six. Not always, but oftentimes they can be very wide, but very expressive, kind eyes. All this, if you see all this nice kindness, what I see is manipulation. When you see people who are so expressive and kind, they're manipulating. And that's a six. So you see these sixes walking around so kind and expressive, that's almost always a six. So that's somebody of high emotional intelligence that's using charisma to manipulate their way into a leadership position. That's what it is. So okay, sixes for that first response. It's between it's kind of a mixture between flight, appeasement, and fight. It's kind of a mixture between them. It depends on the six. I idealize dominance. From when I was young, I wasn't supported growing up, and because of that, I grew up learning bullying tendencies to bully other people to get what I need to get my needs met, right? So I grew up idealizing dominance, which is why I tested as a type 8 when I got into Enneagrams. And it took me years of learning what I really am at the core and where this bifurcation of how I identify and my behavior are two different things. And if we don't understand who we are, that gap will always be there. And it might even worsen, and we'll never understand ourselves. But as we come to understand Enneagrams, our true intentions, as bad as they are, bad, there's no bad, right? Just like she was saying, it's neutral. We are just what we are. But until we're able to fully realize that, we're always going to have that bifurcation between behavior and identity. You got to close that gap. So I identified as an 8, the big, strong, assertive, tough guy. You know, you list all sorts of reasons that I'm tough to you guys. So that's why I idealized, right? A 6, their 4F response. What's my 4F response? What do you guys think? Is it going to be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn if I idealize dominance? Yeah, hell yeah. I'm a fighter. So I idealize. And that's what made me think that I was an 8 for a long time. Okay, so sixes are also very yin yang. They're very polar. They're so far left and right on everything. I can be so invested into something and so opposite. It feels so yin yang. Then it's not that I don't mean what I feel. It's just things change so quickly for me. So sixes, sixes are always worried about how other people are thinking about them. And if you are not with them, you are against them. That's it. So you have to be with the six. Knowing this with Danny, if I think Danny's a 6, what am I going to do when I show up? I'm going to make sure I'm not going against Danny, because if I ever provoked Danny and I think Danny's a 6, she's not ever going to side with me again. She's not going to make eye contact with me. She's not going to want to be around me because she feels threatened that it's her versus this other person, this adversarialism. So sixes, you have to make very, very comfortable. They want to know, how do you feel about them? That's all they want to know. How do you feel about them? If they don't know, they're not good. And that's my truth. My day is dictated on based on how I think Stacy perceives me. Is it about me, my health, money, friendships, work, travel, all these other things that should control how I feel? No. It is based on how I think she feels about me that day. That is the number one controller in my life. It is my feeling of how other people perceive me. So sixes are very socially driven because they're paying attention to everything, but they're extremely rebellious at the same time. You can't tell sixes anything. They're Fours, sixes, and eights, if you tell them anything, they will do the opposite. And that's just how they are. Sixes are extremely rebellious. They don't look at, they're autonomous. I don't care for all the traffic laws out there. Most of them are dumb. I'll just put it that way. And a lot of them will put you at risk. You're just putting your life at risk following all these rules blindly. That's how I see it. Because I'm rebellious and I don't look for other people about what we should be doing. Well, this is what seems right to me. Okay, so it's not hard. There's still feelers, but I'd like to think that I guess it's still in their head. It's somewhere between heart and head with the six. They're in their head, visual, but they're strong feelers too. It's the feelers that makes it's the feelings and the sensations and the emotional intelligence of the six that makes them the most charismatic of leaders. Sixes end up being the most charismatic because they use emotion to get people going. The threes are stoic. They're using the voice of reason and decision and what's good to influence others. Logic, whereas, and same with fives, sixes lead people with emotion. They mask their logic. They mask their emotion with logic. They intertwine them beautifully to be persuasive to others. So sixes are the most, I would say, the most powerful of leaders. You see lots of sixes in history, like Hitler. I think Hitler was a six. If you look that up, the internet says different than me about everything. But I would say when I think of allegists, I think of Hitler. Now, if you were to think of Hitler, you're looking at integration versus disintegration. That's why I'm saying to lean towards the three. The successor isn't good. If we were to say, what is being successful in life? It's being successful, being notorious, significant, rich, known, all of these things. What am I going to do? I'm going to sacrifice this whole world to get there, right? Because the six is self-absorbed and mission focused. They're going to sacrifice the team to reach success. All right. So that is the unhealthy behavior of the six is to chase success. The more healthy behavior of the six is to emulate the nine. And that's the peacekeeper, the diplomat. It's making sure that everybody's needs are being met while you sit around controlling nothing. The more that you control, the less control you have. The less control you seek, the more control you have. And that's the learning lesson of the six and the eight. The six that sits around in diplomacy and making sure that people's needs are met will always have their own needs met. Also very security oriented, no states anxiety. I'm sure. Oh my God. Let me just try to skip ahead and see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Real quick, all right, sixes, sevens are the rarest of any personality type, or sevens, they're the life goer. They're happy-go-lucky, spontaneous. They are actually dominant. They think they're dominant, but they're not as tough as the eight. I had a friend, his name was Thor. He was in the Marines. He was a power lifter. He drove a Mustang, all these dominant, tough things. Thought he was tough, but he's not the toughest dude around. He's dominant because his ideas were all good. If you were to look at the seven, they're considered visionaries. Every idea that guy had was a great idea to him, but they were all dumb ideas. I hate to be mean, but I did not find his ideas to be very feasible. Yeah, that'll work as soon as somebody gives you $3.2 million. Great idea, Thor. So every idea he had was great. The one that I see out there in the world right now is Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is a seven. It's super manic. Everything's happy. Everything that he says is a great idea, and he follows through. He's a visionary, and everybody follows him. So Elon Musk would be my example of the seven. They're happy-go-lucky, enthusiastic, but their no state is dissociative behaviors, gluttony, not caring, lacking, making bad decisions. Okay, so you got the eight. The eight's the challenger, assertive, controlling, dominant. You see a lot of eights in history. They can be like warlords, stuff like that. So can the six. Sixes and eights are military leaders generally. Um, so eights are strong, assertive, confrontational. They are non-bending, non-amiable, and because of that, people see them, as a place of strength. Like somebody that doesn't bend, that is seen as strong to a lot of people. It's really not. It's a lot better to be more flexible and be able to admit your mistakes. But eights are very strong and assertive and unwavering. And because of that, even if they are wrong, their unwavering determination leads others. So they're evolution based. All they care about is evolution and change. If you see someone, why are we doing it this way? That's probably a challenger or a six wing eight like me. If somebody's saying, well, why are we doing it that way? And then Hina says, well, that's how we've always done it. And then they lose their shit hearing that. That's probably an eight because that's like the worst thing to say to somebody. That's how we've always done it. Well, great. So eights are also very confrontational, very small area through here. They're going to show up day one and say, problem, 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 problem. Hey guys, I see all these problems. Luckily, I'm here to save the day. So you've been messing that up. You've been messing that up, and you that, you that. Let's all fix this now that I've arrived, and everything will be better. And they're yeah, please promote me to the top because you guys are a bunch of yahoos. And then everybody's sitting around like, what the heck? Who is this guy? Who hired this guy? Right? So that's the eight. How important is it to know the eight and know the intentions? He just wants to change things and improve things. He's not just an asshole, right? All right. Their eights, their no state is lust. I mean, they're gonna constantly seek to have more and more and more money, more power, more control. You get a lot of like drug lords and stuff. They're eights. They're unhealthy eights. The healthy eight helps towards twos, which is contributory, team-focused helping instead of self and mission, and make it towards team. And healthy eights are some of the most powerful people in history. Healthy eights, but it can be rare. Um, Appeal to logic works well. You don't want to appeal to emotion and hate because they will respond with anger. They don't like being manipulated. If you try to manipulate an eight, you will make them angry. Nine, the peacekeeper diplomat. They're sitting around, they're team focused. They want to make sure that everybody's making good decisions. They make good decisions, and they'd like for you to make good decisions as well. And they're going to help you to make sure that you got good decisions. They'll talk to you about your passions and interests. They're usually sociable. They're going to sit there and be happy-go-lucky and maybe even funny. Fives and nines tend to be funny. Threes, fives, and nines I think are the funniest. So nines will sit there and make jokes about stuff. I don't naturally think of nines as the leader, but I found nines in leadership positions. Specifically in Stacy's family, her father is a nine and is the leader of her whole side of the family. All of the brothers, everybody. Her father is the leader of all of them because he's the peacekeeping nine. He just sits around and makes sure that everybody's needs are being met. He's funny, expressed interests. If you were to have a house, a party or something, her father will go sure and make sure that every single person has been talked to that showed up at that party. If you didn't have a good conversation with anybody but Adrian, I can guarantee at least you got to talk to Adrian. So that's what makes him a very powerful leader. There's a lot to talk about with these. We can keep going. Their go state's peace. They just want to make sure everything's getting along. Their no state is sloth, dissociative behavior. I don't care. Drugs, alcohol, bad decisions, stuff like that. Okay. Few things I'm going to talk about. You got health states. If you can figure out somebody's personality type, next you have to figure out their health state. If you know the emotional health level of whoever you're dealing with, then that's most of what you need to predict somebody's behavior. All right. If you know their purpose, their personality type, and the health state of that personality type, that is the predictor of their behavior. That's not gender. It's not where you grew up. It's not any of these other things. It's what mission you're on or purpose, the personality type that you have, and the health or maturity level of that health, of that personality type. That's what determines your behavior. Which that logical order is incredibly important for all of humanity, by the way, to understand that. Because we all go around scapegoating certain things like politics and race and gender and all kinds of other things that are so far down the list that affects us. Primarily, it's the mission network. It's our sense of purpose. That's the biggest word of this entire presentation is the word purpose. As we get into these personality types, you discover the health levels of all these people, of the personality types. You find a common denominator across them all. As everybody grows and heals and gets away from self-focused behavior and self-harming and other people harming, as they heal and grow, they get to a sense of us. No matter what personality type that you are, if you are of a high health level, it's going to be hard for me to read you because you're going to be team oriented. That's the biggest thing that I'm going to start picking up off of anybody who is healthy is that they become team oriented. This is life changing information, world changing. The significance of that is that it doesn't matter what personality we are. It means that as our health level grows, we just need to find a deeper sense of purpose. As you look at all the traumas and everything that we experience here on this planet today, it solely exists because people don't have that sense of purpose. It is just that. It is literally that. It is a lack of continuity and sense of purpose across the human race. If every human being realized that as they grow, that is the goal, is to get to a sense of us. If everybody realized that, it would fast track the evolution of the human race substantially. I'll just put it that way. So that is our job, is realizing what we can do to have positive influence on others, help people get on their life path, of realizing that it is a sense of us and deep sense of purpose. That's what it is.